Why are we so afraid of being alone? We live in a world that never stops speaking, a world saturated with voices, notifications, advertisements, opinions, and noise. A world where being alone is often equated with being unloved, unwanted, or broken. And yet, beneath all that noise, there's a quiet truth that keeps trying to surface. We are terrified of silence, not because it's empty, but because it's full of the one person we spend our entire lives trying to escape, ourselves. From the moment we wake up, we are pulled outward. We reach for our phones before we even open our eyes. We scroll, we click, we watch. We fill every second with distractions, as if the silence might devour us if we gave it a chance. But what exactly are we running from? Why is solitude so uncomfortable? Maybe it's because when you're alone, truly alone, there's nothing left to distract you from your thoughts. No one to impress, no one to validate your existence. It's just you, stripped of titles, followers, obligations, and appearances. In that space, you're forced to confront the raw, unfiltered version of yourself, and that can be terrifying. Most people think they fear loneliness because they crave companionship. But what if that's only part of the story? What if we also fear loneliness because it makes us realize how dependent we are on others to define who we are? Think about it. Without someone watching, do we still feel the need to perform? Without an audience, do we still matter? We've built identities out of mirrors, the reflections we see in the eyes of others. Take those mirrors away, and we feel like we disappear. But that disappearance is an illusion. The truth is, we were always there. We just never looked directly. Solitude forces us to look, to sit with our regrets, our insecurities, our forgotten dreams, our fears, but it also offers something else, something far more rare, far more profound: clarity. In solitude, we begin to hear the whisper beneath the noise, the voice that's always been there, patiently waiting, your own. And maybe that's why solitude is so feared, because once you hear your true voice, you can never go back to pretending. You can no longer live a life built entirely on the expectations of others. You start to question things. Why am I doing this? Who am I doing this for? Does this even make me happy? Most people don't want those questions. They want certainty. They want comfort. They want the familiar noise that drowns out doubt. But some, the brave ones, they choose the silence. Not because it's easy, but because it's honest. Because it's only in solitude that we can meet ourselves without filters. And only when we meet ourselves can we begin to truly connect with others. Because think about it, if you don't know who you are, how can anyone else? If you can't enjoy your own company, how can you ever believe someone else genuinely does? If you're always running from your own mind, then every relationship becomes a hiding place, not a connection. This is why solitude isn't loneliness. Loneliness is a hunger, a lack, a void. But solitude is presence, stillness, depth. Loneliness says, I'm empty without someone. Solitude says, I'm whole, even when I'm alone. But to reach that solitude, we must pass through the fear, the discomfort, the silence. It's a rite of passage, one that's been walked by mystics, philosophers, artists, monks, and seekers for centuries. They knew what we often forget, that the self isn't found in the crowd, but in the quiet. There's a reason why many spiritual traditions retreat into silence, why great minds disappear for months into the mountains or forests. It's not because they hate people, it's because they understand something sacred happens when the world fades away and the inner world begins to speak. But today, solitude is harder than ever. We carry distractions in our pockets. We fear missing out. We tie our worth to how many messages we receive, how many likes we collect, how many people validate our existence online. So we avoid solitude. We call it boring, lonely, a waste of time. But maybe what we call boring is just unfamiliar. Maybe it's not solitude that's uncomfortable. Maybe it's the parts of ourselves we've never learned to sit with, the anger, the sadness, the silence, because solitude is a mirror. It reflects everything, the beautiful, the broken, the hidden, and the true. And once we see it, we can't unsee it. But we can begin to heal it. You begin to realize you're not your job. You're not your achievements. You're not your mistakes. You're not even your thoughts. You're something deeper, something quieter, something unshakable. And that realization is freedom. Because once you're no longer afraid of being alone, you become dangerous in the best way. You stop chasing empty validation. You stop fearing rejection. You stop settling for shallow connections. You start living with intention, choosing relationships, not needing them, creating from authenticity, not approval. You become rooted in something the world can't touch, your own being. And from that place, you can love without clinging, give without losing, exist without pretending. You start to see that being alone is not a punishment. It's a practice, a return, a remembering, because in the end, we are all alone. Even in the most crowded room, no one can feel your thoughts but you. No one can carry your soul. No one can breathe your last breath. But aloneness doesn't have to be frightening. It can be sacred. It can be the place where you stop searching for yourself in others and start finding yourself within. So the next time you feel that ache of loneliness, don't run, don't scroll, don't numb, sit, breathe, listen. There is something inside you that you've been avoiding, and it is tired of being ignored. Let it speak, because beneath all the fear, beneath all the noise, beneath all the masks, you will find someone you've always longed to meet, you. And when you finally meet yourself, not as the world sees you, not as you pretend to be, but as you truly are, you realize you were never really alone. You were simply waiting.